guys, it's Bella. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all having an incredible day. I hope you had a wonderful holiday period. I know it's a little bit late, but happy 2023. In today's video, we're going to be covering another Mystery Monday case, and we're going to be talking about a solved case. It's the case of the Pan family. But before we do get into it, I just quickly want to thank today's sponsor, HelloFresh, for making this video possible. I'm sure you've heard of HelloFresh, but if you haven't, they are the world's leading meal kit company. So if you go on their website, you can choose from their recipes of the week. They have so many to choose from every week, and for every dietary requirement too. They have calorie smart, vegetarian, family friendly, and then they will deliver all of the ingredients for those recipes right to your door. It honestly makes life so much easier, not having to think about what to eat each week, not having to make a grocery list or go grocery shopping, not having to worry about waste or cooking the right amount of food, because all of the work is done for you. And if you're going to be eating out or whatever, you can go on and choose to get one less meal for the week. So it's just the best thing. And then they're all color coded in different bags as well, so you know what ingredients go in what meal. The cold stuff comes in a cold bag, so it's all crisp and fresh when it's delivered. This week, Kerry and I got a quick Indian chicken curry, a Moroccan spice beef and pilaf rice, and then also a pesto and cherry tomato pasta. And we're in the process of moving overseas, so it's taken a load off having one less thing to think about and worry about, and it's still been so easy, even with most of our kitchen packed away. We don't even have a dining table anymore, and HelloFresh has just been a lifesaver. So if you want to try HelloFresh out, using my discount code BellaFresh will get you 65% off if you're in the US, but wherever you're watching from in the world, you will also get a very special discount if you use my code and my link, because it is valid internationally. So I will leave the link and the code in the description down below for you to check out, and let's go ahead and get into today's video. So let me start by introducing you to the Pan family. The mother's name was Bic Ha Pan, and the father's name was Han Pan. Both of the parents were Vietnamese immigrants who immigrated to Canada, and the pair got married in Toronto. They lived in Scarborough, which is a very central district of Toronto. Both Bic and Han worked together at Magna International, which is an auto parts manufacturer in Ontario. And from what I found online, they were both really hard workers. I have no idea how much they actually made, but they were really good savers, and they put enough away to purchase a house in the neighboring city of Markham. They both drove luxury cars and reportedly had $200,000 in savings. And Bic and Han, whilst living in Markham, gave birth to their first child, Jennifer, on the 17th of June in 1986. And then they gave birth to their second child, Felix, a boy, 3 years later in 1989. Like I said, they were really hard workers. They were able to put their heads down, save a lot of money, and they were able to provide financial stability for their family, which was great, because they really wanted to give their children the life and the opportunities that they never had themselves growing up. Jennifer was encouraged to take piano lessons from the age of 4, and I say encouraged, but honestly at the age of 4 you don't really have much of a choice. And not only was she made to take piano, but she eventually was made to take figure skating as well. So you have this really young kid with this super packed schedule, piano, figure skating. It's a lot for this really young child to deal with. According to articles I read, there were nights where she would return from her figure skating practice at 10 p.m. and then she would have to do homework until midnight and then go to sleep, which for a young kid, it's just a lot. They don't have any time to just be a kid. She was expected to just work hard from the age of 4 years old. Anyway, she had her eyes set on the 2010 Winter Olympics, but unfortunately she ended up tearing a ligament in her knee, which prevented her from being able to skate at all anymore. But the expectations for her music and her academics remained really high, and she got really good grades in primary school, but once she got to high school, she found herself struggling. She was still excelling in music, but she wasn't getting great marks in the academic areas of high school. Jennifer was described by classmates as a social butterfly who got along with everyone, and I think this was due to the activities she was involved in inside and outside of school. She was able to find friends in every group around the school, really. She was part of the senior stage band and played flute, but on top of that and all of her academic commitments, she also took part in swimming and martial arts outside of school as well. And there's a term that's thrown around in relation to this case a lot. Many people refer to the Pan parents as tiger parents, and this is basically a term that's it's used to describe parents that are really strict on their children. They expect a lot of them and they're really involved in their children's success. And from what I read online, honestly, I can understand why people refer to them this way. Even children from Jennifer's class referred to them this way. And they noted that Han would often pick Jennifer up from school and take her straight to extracurricular activities. And this pressure ended up leading Jennifer to forge her report cards from school because, like I said, she wasn't doing very well academically. And so she would forge her report cards to make it look like she was a straight A student because there's no way she wanted her parents to know that she wasn't doing so well. And this case just reminds me so much of the Gonzalez family case, which I did a video on a while ago. If you guys might remember it, if you don't, I will leave it in the description down below, like a link to the video. But it just reminds me so much of that because he did the exact same thing, and that case took place in Australia. So it's, you know, it happens all around the world. Anyway, Jennifer actually ended up failing calculus class altogether, and prior to failing, she had actually received early admission from a university called Ryerson University. But after she failed calculus class, they revoked her early admission, which I cannot even imagine the feelings when she realized or found out that her early admission or her admission at all to this university had been revoked. Just the amount of pressure she was under, she just really was so worried about disappointing her parents and not meeting their expectations that were just through the roof. And all of this pressure ended up leading her to start self-harming, which is just devastating. You know, the fact that she felt so much pressure that was what she felt the need to do as an outlet, and the fact that she felt all of this pressure from the people who were meant to be closest to her. And she was such a young girl as well. You know, I completely understand why she felt the need to lie about her grades. Now, Jennifer lying about her grades was really just the tip of the iceberg, and her Ryerson University admission being revoked is kind of where her web of lies started. You know, it started to kind of really snowball from here. She didn't tell her parents that her university admission was revoked. In fact, she went on to tell them that she got a scholarship to a pharmacology program at the University of Toronto. She actually went as far as to fake a document to show her parents that she had received a $3,000 scholarship. During the time that her parents thought she was attending university, she actually worked as a piano teacher, and she also worked in a restaurant to earn money. And during this time, she would doctor textbooks to make it look like she was actively attending university, and she would show this to her parents as like evidence that she was going to uni, which is just so crazy that she was able to keep up this charade this whole time, like she was going to university. It honestly sounds like as much effort as actually going to university, like the amount of effort she had to put into just to faking it. And like, she's living with her parents while all of this is going on. So, I mean, it's actually pretty impressive that she was able to fool them. Some days she would actually like go and catch a bus to the library where she would sit and she would fake notes from her fake classes, and then she would go home to her parents and tell them all about her day at school and her classmates that she didn't actually have. Like, she would make up stories about fake classmates, show them her fake notes, which must have just been a lot of effort. But, you know, it's what her parents wanted. It made them proud. From the outside, it looked like everything was perfect. It looked like Jennifer was going to university and she was getting great grades and she was going for pharmacology, and just, it was everything they wanted. And their son Felix went to a prestigious college where he studied mechanical engineering, and Han was so proud because he had these dreams that his son Felix would end up designing the same cars that Han helped to assemble at the Magna auto parts company. Jennifer's at uni by this point. She's an adult, but she's still obviously living with her parents, and her parents are still really strict. They still have a lot of control over Jennifer and her life. And so she would even have to ask permission so she could go and stay near campus sometimes during the week. And she would lie to them and tell them that she's staying with a friend named Topaz, but she was actually staying with her boyfriend, a guy named Daniel Chi Kwong Won, and she had met him in high school. He was a year older than her, but he ended up going to a different high school because he got really bad like grades. He did really badly academically, and so he ended up having to transfer to a different school. Daniel really was not as much of a straight shooter as Jennifer, and while he and Jennifer were dating in high school, he was actively dealing marijuana. And there were some reports that I read online that the reason he transferred schools was not just because he was doing bad academically, but because they actually found marijuana in his car. I mean, either way, he transferred schools to a different school in Toronto. Jennifer was also not allowed to date. She wasn't allowed to hang out with boys. She wasn't allowed a boyfriend. She wasn't allowed to, drink and party and, all of that sort of teenage stuff. And so obviously the relationship between her and Daniel, been dating since high school, was kept a secret. And by age 22, Jennifer had never been drunk. She'd never gone to a nightclub or anything like that. She was sort of, closed off to the world. There were some people who believed that the way in which the Pan family treated Jennifer constitutes as abuse, and I can definitely see how their oppressive treatment of her can be considered abuse. There was never anything or any reports that I saw online of any physical abuse or anything like that. But at the very least, I can see how you would build so much resentment towards your parents for being so oppressive. I think it's important to note as well, though, that Jennifer also lied to her friends, particularly about the way her parents treated her. For example, she told them that her dad hired a private investigator to follow her around, which turned out to be false. I mean, I don't know if maybe she believed it, like she thought someone was following her or something, but it just wasn't true in any form. And so it does bring into question how badly the Pans actually treated her. In general, I think it's just a really difficult situation because it seems like it turned her into a compulsive liar. She's not just lying to her parents anymore. She's almost just lying to everybody. Now, during Jennifer's time, at university, she was staying with Daniel a lot, which her parents didn't know. Like I said, she was staying with a friend, but she was actually staying with Daniel, and she was practically living with him at this point. And so his parents really wanted to meet Jennifer's parents, but for obvious reasons, that wasn't going to be able to happen because, first of all, they didn't even know that she had a boyfriend. They absolutely would not allow it. And second of all, they had no idea that she was effectively living with him. So it just, it wasn't possible. And then also at this point, it's coming to the time where her university degree should really be wrapping up, but she has nothing to show for it because she hasn't actually been going to university. So she ended up getting Daniel to hire someone to fake her university transcript. And then obviously there's the matter of the actual graduation ceremony. There was no way Han and Bick were going to miss that ceremony. And so Jennifer came up with this lie. She told them basically that her class was so big that all of the students were only allowed to bring one guest, and she didn't want to have to choose favorites and pick between her mum and her dad, so she just invited a friend instead. And I guess they bought it. Her lies were playing out pretty smoothly. I have no idea if they were suspicious or not, but it doesn't seem like they were. I mean, I've never heard of a university being like, sorry, you can't bring both of your parents to your graduation, but they were none the wiser as far as I know. They do start getting suspicious at around this time though for a different reason, because Jennifer ends up telling them that she is volunteering at the hospital for sick children, but she has no ID, she has no uniform, she has nothing to indicate that she's actually going to volunteer. And so they were like, something is going on here, something suspicious. I don't know what they thought at this point. I don't know if they just thought she wasn't volunteering. I don't know if they thought she was hiding a boyfriend or that she wasn't going to university, or what they were suspicious that she was doing instead of volunteering, but they were suspicious of something at this point. So Bick ends up following Jennifer to the hospital, and she uncovers that Jennifer is not actually working there. And I read a report online that Jennifer went to the hospital, and then when she realized her parents or her mum was following her, she just ran to the emergency room to hide or something. But her parents end up leaving, and they call her friend Topaz, who they think she's been staying with all of this time. And Topaz, I think, had her wires crossed at this point. She had the days mixed up or something, because she's like, no, Jennifer's not here. And that is really when the whole charade kind of crashes down on Jennifer lying about her job, her volunteering, her university, and her boyfriend kind of all at once, and she ends up admitting it to her parents. Her father, Han, was furious. He actually threatened to kick Jennifer out, but her mother, Bick, was kind of playing the peacemaker, and she ended up convincing Han to allow Jennifer to stay, because Bick was kind of, she, I guess, took a backseat to Han Han's parenting style. So he was really the tiger parent. He was the strict one who wanted their kids to excel academically, and Beck kind of just, you know, she took a backseat to that. She just kind of let him do his thing and supported his parenting style, really. So they end up encouraging her to go back and complete her unfinished high school diploma with the end goal of being to go to university. And it was kind of like a fresh start in some respects, but obviously her parents were going to be a lot stricter this time because they've just found out that she's lied about going to university, completing university, having a job or a volunteer program she's doing, and having a boyfriend. So there's no way they want to let any of that sort of thing slip under their noses again. So they're going to be a lot stricter. She wasn't allowed to go anywhere besides her piano teaching job, and she wasn't even allowed to use a phone or a computer unless she was supervised by a parent. And mind you, Jennifer is like in her 20s now. She's an adult. She's old enough to have completed high school and then gone on to complete a degree. I mean, she didn't actually complete a degree, but she's old enough to have done that. She's an adult, but she cannot use her mobile phone or a computer unless her parents are watching her, which is just insane to me. It made it really hard, obviously, to contact her boyfriend Daniel, who she wasn't allowed to contact at all, but she would still secretly contact him at night once she found out where Han hid her cell phone. And then she was actually even caught sneaking out to try and go and see Daniel. And when she was caught, her parents basically gave her an ultimatum, like, it's us or it's him. And she lied to them and said, okay, I'm not going to see him anymore, but that was just another lie. And so it's all just kind of building up and building up. And as I'm sure you can imagine, this all was very draining for Daniel. Like, it was pretty annoying, you know, just always having to be really secretive about your relationship, not being able to meet your girlfriend's parents. It was just like a really draining situation for him. And so he actually ended up getting into another relationship with a woman named Christine. Jennifer obviously was not happy about this, and so she ended up coming up with this fake story. She allegedly told Daniel that she was gang raped, and then she said that a few days after this alleged rape happened, she received a letter in the mail which contained a bullet in it, and she said that this came from Daniel's new girlfriend, Christine. She also alleged that she got another letter from Christine which basically said, you're a dead person walking, and you know, I didn't see anything to corroborate this letter, and Jennifer claims that she like threw it out because she didn't think it was a big deal. I mean, it's very questionable, you know? I mean, I just think if you received a letter like that and you think it's from your ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend, you're gonna keep it as evidence to show your boyfriend. I don't know why she didn't just like kind of fake a letter. Like, she's faked all this other stuff. Why can't she just fake the letter instead of pretending to have thrown it out? I don't know. I digress. I think it was just her trying to discredit the new girlfriend so she could win Daniel back, because this was a really hard time for Jennifer. She was obsessed with Daniel. Like, she was madly in love with him, and he moved on. He wanted nothing to do with her. I mean, he was in love with her too, but he just couldn't deal with the difficulty of trying to make their relationship work. In February of 2009, Jennifer posted on her own Facebook saying, living in my house is like living under house arrest. So it's clear that she was going through a really hard time, but this is something she had been dealing with for her entire life. I think at this point it was worse. Like, her parents were way stricter now. Like, she was really under their thumb because she'd been caught out lying so much, and they didn't want that to be able to happen again. So while all of this is going on, the unthinkable happens. On the 8th of November in 2010, 3 armed men break into the Pan family home. When the men burst through the front door, Beck was downstairs and Jennifer and Han were upstairs. So one of the men pointed a gun at Beck while another man ran upstairs to find Han. He was actually asleep in bed at the time, so he woke up to a gun barrel being pointed at his head, and then he was led downstairs to where Beck was. And then the third man involved went up and took care of Jennifer. He tied her hands behind her back with a shoelace and then used her to help them find all of the cash in the house. They first took her downstairs with a gun pointed to her head. They made her get on the ground. And mind you, all of the lights in the house were off at this time. So it would have just added to what a scary situation this was. They couldn't see the intruders at all. And they stole $1,100 from Beck's nightstand. They stole $2,500 from Jennifer. And then I believe they only stole $60 from Han. After Jennifer helped them find all of this cash, they led her upstairs and tied her to the banister, and then they took Bick and Han down to the basement where I believe they threw a blanket over their heads. The men then shot Han once in the shoulder and once in the face, and they shot Bick 3 times in the head, which killed her instantly, and the 3 men then ran away. Now, Han actually survived this gunshot to the face and the shoulder. He was unconscious and in critical condition, but he survived. And Jennifer upstairs, she was alive. She heard all of this happen. She heard the gunshots, and she managed to call the police. And as she was calling the police, as she was on the phone to them, Han actually woke up, and he managed to stumble outside and, caught the attention of a neighbor who also called 911. And there is a recording of the phone call Jennifer made to the police. So I'm going to play that for you now.
Where are you, ma'am?
Please just help me out. I don't know where my parents are.
Ma'am, calm down. What?
Some people broke into our house and they just showed all his money. And I just hear my parents yelling downstairs. Please send me out.
Ma'am, where are you? What?
Avenue.
Avenue Road.
Yes.
Can you spell the street name for me, please?
Dad? No, you're calling me.
Ma'am. Hello?
I'm okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Ma'am, I need to know your address. Avenue Road, can you please spell?
In Helen Avenue, my dad just went outside screaming.
Ma'am, can you spell the street address for me, please?
H-E-L-E-N. Someone broke in and I heard shots like pops. I don't know what's happening. I'm tied upstairs.
So police quickly arrive on the scene, as well as an ambulance, and the ambulance takes Hans straight to the hospital to treat his injuries. And shortly after he arrives at that hospital, he was actually airlifted to a different hospital and put into an induced coma. Jennifer didn't receive any injuries at all, actually. She was completely unharmed, and from what I understand, she was just kind of tied up, used to find the cash, tied up, and then stowed away. I mean, it's just the most brutal situation. It's just so unnecessary. Nobody deserves this, like to lose your parents like that, to hear it happen, to lose your wife in front of you, to deal with these traumatic injuries and the traumatic sort of memories and feelings that you would experience from this afterwards. Like, it's not just the physical injuries, it's the mental injuries as well. And, for Felix, their son as well, who wasn't even there and would just hear about this traumatic situation that happened to his parents, losing his mum, his dad's in an induced coma. I cannot imagine. The same night of the intrusion, or morning I guess, because it was like 3 a.m, Jennifer was interviewed by the police about what happened, and she was able to tell them how the intruders burst into the house, how they were looking for money and they used her to look for money before tying her up against the banister and then taking her parents down into the basement to shoot them. And she was able to give brief descriptions of the intruders, but they weren't very descriptive at all because it was dark, they couldn't really see anything. During this interview, they also asked Jennifer if they could pull her phone records, and she looked like really visibly uncomfortable at this request. This whole ordeal was a major shock for the community as well, because it's not often that you see crimes of this nature where masked, armed intruders are breaking into homes of seemingly innocent people to just steal money from them and killing innocent people. It's just the people that were living in Markham were terrified because they had these masked, armed intruders going around breaking into family homes to steal money, and they didn't know who was going to be next, if this was going to happen again, if they were just going around robbing random innocent families. 2 days later, they questioned Jennifer again, and while they're questioning her this time, they ask her how she was able to reach her phone in her waist when she was tied up to the banister. And it's around this time that it really starts to show that there are some holes in this whole home invasion story. From initial investigations, police were able to see that there were a lot of things that weren't really consistent with a robbery of this sort. For example, there was no signs of forced entry, so the intruders hadn't used like a crowbar or any sort of thing like that to get into the house. There was no signs that they had to force their way in. The intruders didn't bring backpacks to carry their loot in. They didn't bring handcuffs or zip ties to restrain their victims with or anything like that. And there were also just some inconsistencies in the story Jennifer told them about the invasion the night it happened happened and when they questioned her 2 days later. For example, she told them in her first interview on the night that it happened that the intruders led her downstairs and made her get down on her knees and put her head on the ground. But in her interview 2 days later, she told them they led her downstairs and made her sit cross-legged on the ground. You know, it's not like a major thing, and it's easy to kind of mistake things in such a traumatic situation. I'm sure your mind would be all over the place, but it's just a lot of little inconsistencies like that build up and just make Jennifer look like she's unreliable. You know, it really brings her reliability into question. Another major red flag in her story is that the car keys were right at the front door, and so the police were kind of questioning, you know, if they came there for a robbery and the car keys are right there in front of them, why wouldn't they steal a car as well? The whole intrusion just seemed like a lot of effort, like to actually kill someone and get a murder charge, not just a robbery charge for cash in nightstands. I think it just makes it look like they took the cash from the nightstand to make the fact that they came here to murder people look like they actually came here to rob these people instead, if that makes sense. So because of this, and because of, you know, the suspicions they had about Jennifer, the police were actually able to assign a surveillance team to watch her. And then police also allegedly got an anonymous phone call that basically dubbed Jennifer's boyfriend or ex-boyfriend Daniel in as a drug dealer as well. So they were just very suspicious of the whole situation. So they bring Daniel in for questioning, and he didn't quite have the same story as Jennifer. He said that all he knew was that Jennifer was in love with him, but her dad Han did not want them to be together and he would not allow them to be together. And so the police are basically getting this story from him that Jennifer really had motive to kill her parents so that her and Daniel could finally be together. Now, Han at this point is still in an induced coma, but police really want to talk to him because obviously he's a witness to the whole situation, and he ends up waking up on the 12th of November, and he's still got some really horrific injuries. He's got a broken bone under his eye, he's got a shattered neck bone, he's got bullet fragments in his face, which they're not going to be able to remove, and despite all of this, despite everything he went through, despite his injuries, he is still able to recall really important things about the night of the intrusion. So he recalled Jennifer talking quietly with one of the intruders, and he also recalled her being led throughout the house with the intruders without her hands being tied. And so, you know, despite everything he went through, he still remembers this. He can still give this information to police. This guy is like the Terminator. It's insane. So Jennifer is brought in for questioning again 10 days later. So this is her third interview now. And in this interview, police basically say to her, look, we know you were involved in some capacity. And as far as criminals go, you know, Jennifer is not really good at being under pressure, because as soon as the police say to her, like, look, we know you were involved, she just hunches over, she starts crying, and she says, but what happens to me? To police, like, this is a confession, but she hasn't actually confessed yet, so they really start to put the pressure on her. Over the next 4 hours, they continue to question her, and she is basically like grasping at straws, trying to explain what happened. Her new story is basically that she wanted to end her own life, and so she hires this guy who she refers to as homeboy to come and kill her because she was too scared to do it herself, so this was like her easy way out, I guess. She said that she wanted to end her own life because of her abusive relationship with her father, but by September her relationship with her father was getting better, and so she decided to call the hit on herself off. But when she tried to do that, the hitmen got their wires crossed and thought she wanted them to murder her parents instead, I guess. I mean, it's pretty out there, but this is her new story that she's going with. Obviously, police don't believe what she's saying, and I'm pretty sure they know what happened. Like, I'm pretty sure they, in their heads, know that she's just hired a hit on her parents, but they have to prove it. The method of interrogation that was used by Detective Bill Gates in this case, although legal, is definitely questionable and is a very contentious topic, but the method he uses called the read technique, and this is like high pressure questioning. It's reportedly generated false confessions in the past, but basically it is perfectly acceptable for a law enforcement officer to lie to a suspect and tell them that they failed a polygraph test or that one of their accomplices is cooperating, and that's exactly what they did in this situation to Jennifer. Keep in mind that this is all, completely made up, what he's saying to her.
The reason why I'm here today, okay, is that I'm an expert, okay, in what we call truth verification. My job is to determine whether everything somebody has told us as a witness or as a reporting party is actually the truth.
After this interview, Jennifer was arrested and she was charged with first-degree murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit murder. The 3 intruders were also identified at this stage. Their names were Eric Carty, David Milvaganam, and Lenford Crawford. Police were able to get a hold of text messages between Jennifer, Daniel, and the 3 intruders, and they were able to charge everyone with the same charges as Jennifer. And I believe Lenford Crawford was the one she referred to in her interview as homeboy. Some of the most crucial texts that was sent from the intruders to Jennifer's phone included one that said, "I need time of completion, think about it, game time November 8th. There was another text sent that read VIP access, and this text was sent just minutes before the invasion and murders. And in the minutes following that text, there was CCTV footage of Jennifer's bedroom light being flicked on and off, and police said this is basically her signaling to the intruders that the front door is unlocked for them. Now, before we go any further, I think it's important to provide a bit of context about what was happening in the lead up to the invasion and Bix murder. In early 2010, Jennifer met up with an old friend from elementary school named Andrew Montemayor, and I don't know what prompted them to reconnect after so long, but things get a little dark here. So Andrew starts going on to Jennifer. He basically starts bragging to Jennifer about how he's held people up and robbed people at knife point before, which is a very interesting thing to brag about. Do you want brownie points for being the biggest douchebag ever? Any normal person I think would probably be on the phone to Crime Stoppers, but not Jennifer. Jennifer saw that as an opportunity to start opening up about her life and her struggles and how she had been abused all of her life and how horrible her relationship with her father was. And that prompted Andrew to be like, oh, I actually considered killing my father one time. And Jennifer was like, wow, interesting idea. That sounds great. She started envisioning how great her life would be without her father in it. And she tells all of this to Andrew. She's like, my stress would be gone without my dad in my life. And this prompted Andrew to give her the number of his roommate, a guy named Ricardo Duncan. And Jennifer chats to this roommate and this Ricardo guy, and basically he says, if you give me $1,500, I'll kill your dad for you. For starters, that's a very low fee for a hit. That's got to be the cheapest hit ever. But Jennifer paid him the fee, and I think there's so many alternatives that Jennifer could have taken besides having her parents murdered and trying to have a hit taken out on them. She could have run away. She could have moved elsewhere and cut contact with them. She did not need to murder these people, her parents. Anyway, by July, it was pretty obvious to Jennifer that Ricardo was not serious about the hit, and he had basically just taken her money and ghosted her. Points to him for not being a murderer. So at this point, Jennifer's at a crossroads. She's pretty much already rationalized killing her parents in her head, but now she doesn't have anyone to take out the hit for her and actually go and murder them. And that's where her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend Daniel actually, pops back into the picture, because he found out that she stood to inherit $500,000 from her parents if they died. And so here he comes, waltzing in, saying, I can help you out. I can help you murder your parents. We can take the inheritance money and then we can run off into the sunset together. And so that's when Daniel introduces Jennifer to Lenford Crawford, who was the man Jennifer refers to as homeboy. Crawford allegedly gave Jennifer a new SIM card and a new iPhone so they could contact each other privately. I read some reports that Daniel might have given her the phone. I don't know who gave her the phone. Maybe Crawford gave Daniel the phone to give to Jennifer. Whoever gave her the phone was there so that she could contact Crawford privately about this hit. And then Crawford introduced her to Eric Carty, and then Carty contacted David Milvaganam. So once the police find all of this information out and Jennifer, Daniel, and the 3 intruders have all been arrested, the trial began on the 19th of March in 2004, and all of the accused originally pled not guilty, and the trial spanned for nearly 10 months. Police provided a boatload of digital evidence during this trial in the form of text messages, some of the most notable being nearly 100 text messages sent between Jennifer and Daniel in the 6 hours leading up to the invasion. Prosecutors also focused on the nature of the invasion and how it's not really typical of, this sort of robbery. They didn't take the car even though they very easily could have. Jennifer was completely unharmed, and now they also have a witness, her father, saying that at one point she was unrestrained and even talking to the intruders in a friendly manner. Her police interviews were also ridiculed as being inconsistent. In the first 2, she was very tight-lipped. She wouldn't admit to any involvement whatsoever, and then in the 3rd she basically spilled the beans. And then there were also inconsistencies in all 3 interviews, but particularly the first 2. Jennifer testified during the trial as well. She testified over 7 days. She first testified about the fact that she paid $1,500 to Ricardo Duncan to kill her father, but then, that didn't end up happening and he ghosted her and took the money. And she also testified about the fact that she hired a hit on herself and then she cancelled that. And then she believed that the invasion was basically the intruders trying to recoup losses on the fact that she had cancelled her own hit. The prosecution, however, alleged that Jennifer had orchestrated this whole plan with the help of her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, whatever he was, Daniel, and they planned to basically have her parents murdered so they could get the $500,000 insurance payout, and then they could, obviously run off into the sunset together with all of this money. And one thing I want to mention here as well is motive. Obviously, money aside, to kill your parents is a crime of passion and revenge. Obviously, she did stand to inherit $500,000, but to kill your parents is just so drastic and unprecedented, and I'm sure there's so many people out there who would pay that much money just to see their loved ones again for a single minute. And I'm sure there's a lot of, built up resentment from all of the pressure she faced and from the confinement and all of their rules and how strict her parents were, but I just feel like there's other alternatives to murder. She was 24 years old when the hit took place, so she could have run away. There are alternatives. You don't need to have them murdered. It never came out which perpetrator was actually responsible for pulling the trigger and murdering Beck and attempting to murder Han. What did come out was some interesting new information about Jennifer, who admitted that she had a hard time separating reality from fantasy. And basically, I think it was her defense trying to play the mental illness defense sort of thing and trying to paint Jennifer in a better light. It is interesting how Jennifer decided to hire hitmen rather than commit the murders herself, but I think it really goes along with her kind of victimizing herself. Throughout this whole case, she has played the victim. She's the victim, her parents are these monsters, and she's the prisoner at home. And once again, in this whole case, she can play a victim. She was there while her parents were murdered and she had to hear it. And there's also that aspect of plausible deniability. She wasn't the actual one to pull the trigger and kill her parents, so she could kind of plead, this is crazy, I was involved, I'm a victim too, I don't know who these people are, that sort of thing, because she just really has this sort of victim complex. Over 200 exhibits of evidence were presented at the trial and over 50 witnesses took the stand, but in the end, Jennifer, Daniel, David, and Lenford were convicted and were sentenced to life in prison without the chance of parole for 25 years. Eric Carty's lawyer fell ill during the trial and his case got declared a mistrial, and then a year later, at the end of 2015, he pled guilty to conspiring to commit murder and received 18 years in jail with eligibility for parole after 9 years. He himself stated that he did this to prevent Han from going through another trial, so I guess he felt, some sort of remorse in the end. After the sentencing was handed down, Jennifer's father and brother, so Han and Felix, ended up taking out a court order against her so that she wasn't able to contact any members of the family, and this was granted, so she's completely cut off from them. And she was also prohibited from contacting Daniel again. So I don't know who like put this through or if it was part of the sentencing, but you know, their relationship is not going to happen for the foreseeable future. Jennifer remains at the Grand Valley Institution for Women in Ontario, and pretty much everyone else is also still incarcerated besides Eric Carty, who died in his cell in 2018. And something that was really heartbreaking as well is that Han Pan actually was not able to attend his wife Bic's funeral due to the injuries that he sustained in the attack. He couldn't be there. I mean, there's really no words to describe what a heartbreaking situation it is to not only lose, you know, your person in life, but to not even be able to attend the funeral to say goodbye. I'm just going to read a victim impact statement now that he read to the court to just give you a glimpse into how he was feeling, even though you could never, like, it's not something you could ever understand from an outside perspective. It just gives you a bit of insight into what he was experiencing. He said, "When I lost my wife, I lost my daughter at the same time. I don't feel like I have a family anymore. Some say I should feel lucky to be alive, but I feel I am dead too. I hope my daughter Jennifer thinks about what has happened to her family and can become a good, honest person someday." After the attack, he's also no longer able to work, and he suffers from a number of mental health issues such as anxiety attacks, insomnia, and nightmares. And he also has long-standing issues that cause him daily pain, and he finds it really hard to find enjoyment in things that he once considered hobbies. And on top of that, he can't sell the family home either because of the stigma attached to it. So he has to stay there despite finding it incredibly traumatizing and difficult. Felix as well, I cannot imagine how difficult it would have been for him to wrap his head around the entire situation of his sister taking out a hit on his parents. He suffers depression because of the incident, and he moved away to the East Coast to get away from the Pan family stigma. But that's everything for the case. That's it from me today. And, you know, I'm going to be here to chat in the comments about what you guys think, because it's a really insane, overwhelming case. It's traumatic, it's heartbreaking, it's devastating, and I just think it was so unnecessary. You know, murder always is, but she was 24. There were other alternatives. She didn't need to try to carry out a hit on her family. I don't agree with their parenting style, but I don't think that it warranted murder. But that's all from me, guys. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.